Rome catalogued over 500 ingredients in a single cookbook. Your grocery store carries about 200. Most of those 200 are processed versions of the same dozen plants, bred for shelf life, stripped of nutrition, and pumped with additives to survive a supply chain that stretches thousands of miles. But here is what should bother you. 7 foods that sustained 60 million people across 3 continents for over 1,000 years have been quietly removed from your kitchen. Not because they stopped working, because they could not be packaged, shipped, or mass-produced fast enough to make corporations money. These foods fermented, preserved, healed and nourished at a scale modern agriculture has never matched. They fed legions marching 25 miles a day in full armour. They supplied cities of 1 million people without refrigeration. They kept an empire running for 1,000 years on methods so effective that modern science is only now confirming what Roman engineers figured out through observation and sheer repetition. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what was taken from you, who took it, and how to get it back. Number 1. Posca. Every Roman soldier carried it. Every street vendor in Rome sold it. A drink so embedded in the empire that it appears in the crucifixion accounts of the New Testament when a soldier raised a sponge soaked in it to a dying man on a cross. That was not cruelty, that was a legionary offering, the only drink he had. Posca. Vinegar mixed with water, salt and herbs. That is it. 3 ingredients. The Roman military rationed it to every soldier from at least the Second Punic War in 218 BC through to the late Empire, over 600 years of continuous military use. A decree in 360 AD ordered lower ranks to drink posca and wine on alternate days. Emperor Hadrian drank it to show solidarity with his troops. Cato the Elder swore by it after decades of campaigning. Here is why it worked. Acetic acid killed waterborne bacteria that caused dysentery, the single biggest killer of armies in the ancient world. One contaminated water source could destroy a legion faster than any enemy. Posca neutralized that threat. The vinegar also preserved vitamin C, preventing scurvy on campaigns that lasted months. The salt replaced electrolytes lost in forced marches carrying 30 kilograms of gear through Mediterranean heat. Modern sports science calls this an isotonic beverage. Romans called it breakfast. The 16th century physician Girolamo Cardano attributed the physical superiority of Roman legionaries partly to their diet of posca, cheese and cured meats. Modern analysis confirms that brewed vinegar contains potassium, magnesium, B vitamins, and acetic acid that supports fat metabolism and stabilizes blood sugar. Your modern replacement is Gatorade, a drink invented in 1965 containing 34 grams of sugar, artificial dyes and synthetic citric acid. The Romans kept armies alive for 6 centuries with vinegar and water. The sports drink industry charges you $4 for sugar water in a plastic bottle. Make posca yourself. 1 part red wine vinegar to 4 parts water. Add a pinch of salt and a teaspoon of honey. That is the drink that built an empire. Number 2. Maritum. The poet Virgil, the man who wrote the Aeneid, also wrote a poem about a cheese spread. That should tell you something about how important this food was. Maritum was a paste of fresh cheese, garlic, herbs, olive oil and vinegar, ground together in a stone mortar until it formed a thick aromatic spread eaten on bread. Virgil describes a farmer named Simulus rising before dawn, grinding 4 heads of garlic with parsley, rue, coriander seeds, salt and hard cheese into a paste. It was breakfast. The recipe appears again in Columella's De Re Rustica, around 60 AD, listing savoury mint, coriander, parsley, chives, rocket, thyme, and fresh cheese. Every ingredient was grown in the kitchen garden or made in the household. 0 packaging, 0 preservatives, 0 supply chain. The nutritional profile of Maritum reads like a supplement label. Raw garlic contains allicin, a compound with antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties documented in over 5,000 published studies. Fresh herbs deliver concentrated antioxidants, vitamin K, and folate. Pecorino-style cheese from raw sheep's milk provided calcium, protein, and fat-soluble vitamins A and D. Olive oil added monounsaturated fats and polyphenols. Every component was a whole food delivering bioavailable nutrition in a form your body evolved to absorb. Your modern replacement is cream cheese or Cheese Whiz, or any of the shelf-stable spreads in the dairy aisle that contain modified milk ingredients, sodium phosphate, lactic acid, sorbic acid, artificial colour and gar gum. The ingredient list on a jar of processed cheese spread is longer than Virgil's entire poem. Maritum disappeared because it requires fresh ingredients, a mortar, and 5 minutes of effort. The food industry cannot package effort. It can only package substitutes. Make Maritum in your kitchen tonight. Crush garlic with salt in a mortar. Add grated pecorino romano, chopped parsley, celery leaves, coriander, a splash of vinegar, and a drizzle of olive oil. Pound it into a paste. Spread it on bread. That is the breakfast that fueled Roman farmers from dawn to dark. Number 3. Fr. The Latin word for grain. This is what the Romans built their empire on, not modern wheat. Far specifically Emmer wheat Triticum dicoccum, a hulled grain with 28 chromosomes, was the staple food of the Roman Republic and early empire. Julius Caesar brought it back from Egypt and called it Pharaoh's wheat. Roman legions carried it in their rations. The word farina, meaning flour, comes directly from far. So does the word farinaceous. The grain was so central to Roman life that the earliest form of Roman marriage, confarreatio, was named after sharing a cake made from far. Here is what makes Emmer different from the wheat on your shelf. Modern bred wheat has been hybridized to contain 42 chromosomes, bred for high yield, high gluten elasticity, and ease of mechanical harvesting. Emmer has nearly twice the protein of modern wheat. It contains significantly higher levels of magnesium, zinc, and iron. A half cup of cooked Emmer delivers nearly a third of your daily magnesium requirement. Its fibre content is roughly 4 times that of brown rice. The gluten structure in Emmer is fundamentally different from modern wheat gluten. The protein matrix is weaker, meaning it breaks down more easily during digestion. Many people who report sensitivity to modern wheat products can consume Emmer without the same inflammatory response. Emmer was not replaced because it failed. It was replaced because it could not be harvested by combine. The hulled grain requires an extra processing step to remove its tough outer husk, protective layer that shields the kernel from pests, disease, and moisture. Modern wheat was bred to shed that husk easily so machines could process it faster. Strip away the husk and you strip away the protection that kept the grain nutritious and shelf-stable for thousands of years. The industrial milling system needs naked grain that feeds through rollers smoothly. Emmer does not cooperate. That is why it disappeared from your store, and that is exactly why you should seek it out. Buy Emmer flour or whole farro from Italian specialty shops or heritage grain farms. Use it anywhere you use wheat flour. You will taste the difference immediately. That is 3 Roman foods that outperform anything in your grocery store, and we are only halfway through. Number 4. Lucanica. In the southern Italian region of Lucania, Roman butchers developed a sausage that would become the ancestor of every cured meat in European history. Pork coarsely ground mixed with salt, cumin, black pepper, bay leaves and pine nuts stuffed into natural casings and hung to cure. Apicius lists it in De Re Coquinaria. Varro references it into Lingua Latina, confirming the name comes directly from Lucania. Marcus Terentius Varro was writing in the 1st century BC. That makes Lucanica one of the oldest named sausage recipes in recorded history. The Roman version was preserved through lacto-fermentation. Beneficial lactobacillus bacteria naturally present on the meat and in the salt environment converted sugars into lactic acid, dropping the pH low enough to prevent pathogenic bacteria from growing. No nitrates, no sodium nitrite, no potassium sorbate, no butylated hydroxytoluene. The meat preserved itself through a biological process that simultaneously created beneficial probiotics. Roman Lucanica could hang in a dry room for months without refrigeration and remain safe to eat. Modern processed meats use a fundamentally different approach. Sodium nitrite is added to inhibit botulism and create that familiar pink colour. In 2015, the World Health Organization classified processed meats as Group 1 carcinogens, the same category as tobacco smoking. The specific mechanism involves nitrites reacting with amino acids during cooking to form N-nitroso compounds, which are directly genotoxic. Roman Lucanica contained none of these compounds. The preservation was biological, not chemical. The sausage was alive with beneficial bacteria rather than sterilized with industrial additives. Buy naturally fermented salami or sopressata from artisan producers who use only meat, salt and spices. Read the label. If it lists sodium nitrite, sodium erythorbate, or anything you cannot pronounce that is not a Roman sausage, that is an industrial product wearing a traditional name. Number 5. Defrutum. Walk into a Roman kitchen during the reign of Augustus, and you would find a thick, dark syrup sitting next to the hearting. Defrutum was fresh grape juice reduced by boiling to half its original volume. Nothing added, nothing removed. Just concentrated grape must cooked down until it became a rich, sweet syrup used in sauces, preservation, and desserts. Apicius calls for defrutum more than almost any other ingredient in De Re Coquinaria. It sweetened dishes, glazed meats, preserved fruits, and balanced the salt in garum. A thicker reduction called sapa was boiled down to 1/3 and used as a heavy sweetener. The nutritional profile of defrutum is everything refined sugar is not. Grape must contain concentrated polyphenols, the same antioxidant compounds that make red wine beneficial in moderate amounts. It delivers potassium, iron, calcium, and magnesium in bioavailable forms. The natural fructose and glucose provide sweetness with a lower glycemic impact than sucrose because the accompanying fiber and minerals slow absorption. Refined white sugar contains exactly 0 nutrients. It is pure sucrose, stripped of every vitamin, mineral, and cofactor that existed in the original plant. Your body metabolizes it in a spike that triggers insulin response, promotes fat storage, and drives systemic inflammation. Defrutum delivers sweetness with nutrition. Sugar delivers sweetness with damage. Defrutum vanished because sugar was cheaper to produce at industrial scale. Sugarcane plantations, powered by slave labor in the Caribbean from the 1600s onward, produced crystallized sucrose that could be shipped globally and stored indefinitely. A grape reduction made fresh from local vineyards could not compete with a commodity traded on international markets. The sugar industry did not just replace defrutum, it replaced every traditional sweetener on Earth, from honey to date syrup to maple sap, consolidating global sweetness into one refined product that generates over $90 billion annually. Buy Vincotto or Saba from Italian grocers. These are the direct descendants of defrutum, still made the same way. Grape must reduced by slow cooking. Use them anywhere you would use sugar or honey. 1 tablespoon delivers sweetness plus antioxidants, minerals, and polyphenols. 1 tablespoon of sugar delivers 16 calories of nothing. Number 6. Garum. This is the one that should change how you think about food. Walk through the streets of Pompeii before 79 AD, and the smell would hit you first. Fermentation, salt the ocean, garum production facilities lined the southern edge of the city. Stone vats filled with layers of fish intestines, salt, and herbs stood open under the Mediterranean sun for 1 to 3 months, while enzymatic breakdown transformed raw fish into a clear amber liquid, with a flavour so intense that a few drops could season an entire dish. Garum was not a condiment. It was the foundation of Roman cooking. Apicius uses it in nearly every recipe. It appeared on the tables of senators and in the rations of soldiers. Factories operated in Pompeii, Leptis Magna, Gades, and Baila Claudia. Trade routes carried amphorae of premium garum across every province of the empire. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis examined residue from Pompeii garum vessels and confirmed the presence of naturally occurring glutamates, the same umami compounds that make food taste rich and satisfying. But garum delivered those glutamates alongside omega-3 fatty acids from the fish oil, vitamin B12, probiotics from the fermentation process, and a spectrum of amino acids produced by enzymatic protein breakdown. Your modern replacement is monosodium glutamate, MSG, a single isolated compound extracted through the industrial fermentation of cornstarch, delivering umami with 0 nutritional context. No omega-3 fatty acids, no probiotics, no vitamin B12, no amino acid spectrum. Just one chemical designed to trigger your taste receptors without providing anything your body actually needs. That is the trade the food industry made on your behalf. They replaced a whole food fermentation product that took months to develop its complex nutritional profile with a white powder manufactured in hours. Garum has a living descendant. Colatura di Aliti is still produced in the fishing village of Sitara on Italy's Amalfi coast, using methods virtually unchanged since Roman times. Anchovy fillets are layered with salt in wooden barrels, aged for months, and this liquid is collected drop by drop. Buy it, or use high-quality Vietnamese or Thai fish sauce, which follows similar fermentation principles. A few drops in soups, pasta sauces, or salad dressings will deliver umami the way Romans experienced it, with the nutrition still intact. Number 7. Silphium. Silphium was not just a banned food, it was an erased one. A golden flowered plant that grew in a narrow strip of coast in Cyrenaica, modern-day eastern Libya, approximately 200 kilometers long and 55 kilometers wide. For nearly 7 centuries, from the founding of Cyrene around 631 BC to the 1st century AD, this single plant was one of the most valuable commodities in the Mediterranean world. The city of Cyrene stamped it on every coin they minted. Its resin, called laser, was grated over food like a spice. Its stalks were roasted and eaten as a vegetable. Its roots were dipped in vinegar and consumed raw. Sheep and goats fed on the plant were said to produce more tender and succulent meat. Physicians prescribed it for everything from sore throats to digestive disorders. There is strong historical evidence it functioned as a highly effective contraceptive. The shape of its seed may have inspired the heart symbol we still use today. Julius Caesar stockpiled 1,500 pounds of silphium resin in the Roman treasury, alongside gold and silver. Pliny the Elder recorded that it was valued at the same price as silver coins by weight. It was by any measure the most prized plant product in the ancient world. And then, it was gone. Pliny wrote that only a single stalk had been found within living memory, and it was sent to Emperor Nero. The first recorded extinction of a plant species in human history. Overharvesting, overgrazing, Roman provincial mismanagement, and possibly desertification of the Cyrenaican coast combined to destroy a resource that had sustained an entire economy for 7 centuries. Theophrastus, Aristotle's own student, had noted that silphium resisted every attempt at cultivation. It could only be harvested from the wild. When the wild supply was exhausted, there was no backup. In 2021, Professor Mahmut Miski of Istanbul University published research identifying Ferula druidiana, a plant growing near Mount Hassan in central Turkey, as a strong candidate for a surviving relative of silphium. The plant shares morphological features depicted on Cyrenaican coins, produces similar aromatic compounds, and demonstrated anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory properties in laboratory analysis. Food historian Sally Granger conducted cooking experiments with Ferula druidiana at Istanbul's botanical garden, preparing Roman recipes that originally called for silphium. The results, she reported, were eaten with enthusiasm. Silphium may not be entirely lost, but the system that valued it, protected it, and integrated it into an empire-wide food culture was destroyed 2,000 years ago. The modern food industry has no interest in a plant that cannot be cultivated at scale, standardized for uniform output, or shipped in bulk containers. Even if silphium still grows somewhere on a Turkish mountainside, it will never appear in your grocery store. That is not a failure of the plant. That is a failure of the system. Every food we have covered today was part of one interconnected system. Posca kept soldiers hydrated on campaigns fueled by Far and Lucanica. Garum flavoured the Emma porridge that fed 1 million residents of Rome. De Frutum preserved the fruits that accompanied Moritum on a farmer's table. Silphium seasoned the dishes cooked with ingredients shipped along the same trade routes that carried garum amphorae from Spain to Syria. This was not 7 random foods. This was a civilization-wide nutritional infrastructure engineered to feed 60 million people across 3 continents without refrigeration, without chemical preservatives, without a single plastic container. We replace that system with one that needs trucks, warehouses, cold chains, and chemical additives to deliver food that is less nutritious, less flavourful, and less safe than what a Roman street vendor sold for a few copper coins 2,000 years ago. We traded fermented fish sauce rich in omega-3 fatty acids and probiotics for a white powder in a packet. We traded a hulled grain that fed legions for a hybridized crop that requires pesticides to survive. We traded grape must full of antioxidants for refined sugar that delivers nothing but metabolic damage. We traded 7 foods that sustained an empire for the processed contents of your pantry. And nobody asked you. Here is what you can do. First, replace one condiment. Buy colatura di alici or quality fish sauce and use it instead of monosodium glutamate or stock cubes. Second, replace one grain. Buy emmer flour or whole farro and use it instead of modern wheat for one meal a week. Third, replace one sweetener. Buy vincotto or saba and use it instead of sugar in one recipe. 3 substitutions. That is all it takes to start eating the way the longest-lasting civilization in Western history ate. The Romans did not have your technology, they did not have your budget, they did not have your supply chain. They had better food. If this video showed you something the food industry would rather you did not know, hit that subscribe button. We are investigating forgotten Roman knowledge every week, not because the old ways were always perfect, but because some of them were engineered so well that modern science is only now catching up. Drop a comment and tell us which of these 7 Roman foods you're bringing back first. The empire fell. The knowledge does not have to.